Hello, hello. This is Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, the business of being human, and disengage from linear mindset. And today's edition, we, you, I, everything is going to be talking about addiction, lessons from addiction, one of my favorite topics. And we're also going to include other tools of addiction, not as commonly discussed, such as money, clocks, and government. Interesting, right? Okay, so lots going on with this topic. Lessons from addiction. Lessons from addiction. The concept is basically that people that have been through addiction have skill sets that are extremely valuable in today's society and for our species. So this is and this is such an empowering thing too. And there's so much here. This is like one of my favorite. It's like one of my favorite things because yes, I've been through it. Other people been through it, but there's so much we go through in the personal development aspects when we face challenges like this, and interpersonal development, interpersonal challenges that make us really dig down within ourselves to overcome addictions. Of course, our common addictions are, drugs, alcohol, but then food, sex, and it can be anything. And I'm going to go into money and clocks and politics, but really you can be addicted to anything. And what I like to say about addiction, to define addiction, is when a tool becomes overused, that's abuse, right? So anything can be, a tool, but when we cross that threshold of overuse, then we're abuse. And a lot of times it's wanting to use the same tool over and over again. We get comfortable with the tool. We know how the tool, we're comfortable with the tool for whatever reason, but then we only want to use that tool. And so it's kind of a tunnel vision. It gets us stuck into a scarcity mindset, a reactive mindset as opposed to a proactive mindset. It's kind of, we start to operate on a default where it's I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this. I'm just, and trying to establish. I think that the core of this. No, bear with me. I'm just fleshing out, addiction and some of the deeper issues of addiction. So the core of this, I believe, actually stems from a lack of structure. Okay. In the natural world, everything has structure. Everything has habitat. And so when we talk about physical habitat, but there's also mental, emotional, spiritual habitat too, of course. Contemporary society has distanced itself enough from nature so that we are out of touch with a lot of the structure, a lot of structure building, in physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So the addiction, to get it consistent, is the mental, emotional, maybe even some spiritual too, but some of these more fluid aspects of the human, looking for a constant, right? But we know the only constant is change. Okay, so that's one thing, right? So to understand, we have to be accepting of change. We have to be accepting of change. But if there's no foundation, then the human spirit, instinct, whatever, not try to get too stuck on the words there, but the inner part of the human is looking for a foundation. And that foundation, so if we're missing structure, right, bear with me, if we're missing structure, if we're missing some consistencies, and then there's a tool that we get used to, so we develop some consistencies, then that's part of our addiction. We know that XYZ substance will make us feel basically the same. We know that by you know, that clock is a constant. You know, people are looking for so many constants because of a lack of real growth. Okay. Anyway, just set that aside, but and we can resonate on that more later, meditate on it more later. But that's got the foundations of addiction, and that's going to correlate to what we're talking about here. So when people have been through addiction, some of the benefits that we've got, right? It's not just, oh, I quit drugs, my life's better. Yes, 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 but keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't let go of those tools that helped you quit. Those are critical tools. First of all, we've embraced the life and death challenge. We know we've embraced that life and death challenge, which is so critical. Mainstream society has almost eliminated that in the physical aspect, and people are so far from understanding that. And life and death, that's how nature works. The challenge of life and death facilitates life. That's how we grow. That's how everything works. So to be able to dig down and get a hold of that understanding of life and death challenge is just so that's a reconnection to life. So that's one thing. And once people see that, you know, don't let that go. This also correlates to other challenges with overcoming addiction, of course, because there's so many things that open up within us that mainstream society, it just doesn't understand now. Is just so lost. So now we're seeing, wow, and to translate on the surface, the quick translation is disconnect, but it's not. It's disconnect from mainstream society, which is good. Disengage from linear mindset. This is what we're doing. This is what it's all about. But you know, if there's no support on that, if no one's having these conversations, it's like, yeah, you're gonna, you know, during the process of getting clean, you're going to uncover a lot of other things also, which are good. They're just going to be new to somebody that is not really familiar with all these concepts, and a lot of times it's after that we kind of catch on a little bit more. Anyway, so understanding that connection of life and death, huge foundation. And so empowering. I've been fortunate enough to be in a lot of life and death situations, mostly with my day job. But anyone being in the outdoors, or like doing rock climbing, or you know, boating, fishing, anytime you're in the outdoors, there's that, you know, hey, I'm out in the woods, I need to be extra careful. So to catch that part of life during our addiction recovery process, during our, I like to say, overgrowing. You know, we're overgrowing that addiction because we're embracing ourselves, and we're using tools to overgrow these negative, uncontrollable urges and habits. So to engage that life and death, to really catch that is super key. And yeah, and so within that, to dig down and find ourselves, you know, to really find ourselves and to find that core being, because that's where it is. It's within the challenge of life and death, is that we really find who we are, you know, not just who we've adapted to, the person that we are that has to adapt to contemporary society, but who we are beyond that, or and above that, because most of that's like really just garbage anyway. I mean, try and stay on track there. But so the lessons from addiction, and to be super critical. Now here's the other one, that lessons from addiction is such a good skill builder. If we keep growing with this, keep on this. And if you're going through addiction right now, I'm really super glad you're listening for this. If you've been through addiction, you know, go back and you know, catch on to some of these clues that'll help us grow exponentially, and really help us free up. to be so, this buzzword mindful, not really into that. I could go off on a tangent on that for sure, but I'm going to use it and try and reclaim it a little bit, to be mindful of all the energy that's coming into ourselves, right? Because this is what we had to do when we were going through addiction. We had to look for any kind of circumstance that this negativity, that this poison would be able to catch us, right? It's like a trap. And I use the analogy, it's like being in the woods in bear country, in thick bear country, where you really need to be super, super high alert for any sign of something happening, and you need to react, or we need to brace ourselves, or we need to avoid the situation, right? Back in the day, oh, you know what, I better not go to the party because there's probably going to be drugs there, and I just need to stay away, and to nurture that resistance within ourselves, just to hold that energy there and say, oh, no, this is not what I want. And all through going through the addiction process, to start having that communication with ourselves. Another key issue, to really just, okay, and again, if you're going through it, be nice to yourself. Just be nice to yourself. Don't worry if you drop a stitch here or there. Just long term, big picture. Just keep going, and just to nurture that, and just to hold that thought that you're gonna not use this anymore. All right. So huge thing, to be able to go through that and to quit. Then it's like, wow, you can do anything because you've gained these tools. This is the lessons from addiction. We've hit the foundations of ourself and the challenge of life or death. We've hit that communication with self, that deep communication with self, to identify things that we really don't want in our life. We've identified we've identified how to identify something that we don't want in our life. That is critical, and set boundaries. That's setting boundaries for ourselves. I just don't want this in my life. And that skill can be translated to anything. It can be translated to, anything, relationships, jobs, government, money, clocks. What are these things that are negatively impacting us? What are these things that we're addicted to? That when that all of a sudden we're like, oh wow, I spent all my time looking at the clock. Oh wow, I spent all my time trying to get money. Oh wow, I'm looking at the best new law to come about, right? So these are tools, like the transition. These are tools. Not saying anything bad about money or clocks. The other one, the government will table. I mean, there could be a place for a human management hub, but it's nothing like what's going on now, and it would be coming from a different direction. But anytime, when how do most people live their life? They're looking at money, clocks, government. I say, take this test. Try and solve your problems without money, clock, and government. Just eliminate those factors, because those are not what's really happening. People need to get to the core of life's challenges. I'm just looking at Judy's comment there. Yeah, hopefully this video turns out okay. I'm kind of borderline in the reception zone here. So as we carry our lessons from addiction, as we carry these tools, these personal development tools, these boundaries, this is what I was flowing into, is to keep those things and nurture that. So when I quit my drugs and alcohol, the next year I quit soda. And so now I haven't had a soda for 28 years. I've quit other things too. Uh, yeah, milk, beef, pork. I haven't had beef in yeah, 16, 17 years. Same with pork. No, that's beef. I eat buffalo and elk and deer. Side note, not a vegetarian. Um, but find something to quit. Find something to quit. Keep growing that skill set because you can use that skill set. That is an important skill set. I think that here's another thing that I really wanted to make a point of is that in the whole scheme of things, I think that the people that are disconnected from mainstream society, I think that the let's just say that the addicts, the homeless, those that group, that demographic is closer to being a real human than the people that are wrapped up in society because they haven't engaged, and that's an instinctual thing, somewhere in our being, without going into what that is. Let's stay fluid when we talk about mental, emotional, spiritual. Um, Somewhere our being knows that contemporary society isn't sustainable. It just instinctually knows, even if you don't have any, traditional connections or anything that say, well, yeah, of course, blah blah blah. We know that. Um, I didn't mean to say blah blah blah, but we traditional societies know contemporary society is not sustainable because they know. Anyways, but if you're not from a traditional culture, if you've grown up in mainstream society, there's still a part of our instincts that's alive and that is connected to um, the world, the real world, the natural world. And there's something in all of us that says, this isn't going to work. We can't base our lives around money, a clock, or an outside entity managing us. That's not real life. That's not real life. It doesn't work. So as we grow forward in life, let's keep those lessons from addiction, and let's keep our boundaries, and let's look at these things, money and clocks. Let's look at how do we disengage from those. How do we live in contemporary society using money, using a clock, because those, in my opinion, those are fine tools. They just can't take the place. We're always going to need to um, understand the seasons. By the way, it's a new moon last night at 2:28 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, using contemporary calculations there in science and the clock. But yeah, new moon. So, to address the moon, but really to live by a clock, by a static thing that just goes, it's, it's nothing else does that. Nothing goes in a straight linear time, right? Disengage from linear mindset. Nothing works like that. Um, so, so we shouldn't build our lives around that. We can't build our lives around a falsehood. It's a great tool. It's cloudy out here in the Pacific Northwest. I can't see the sun. Super easy. Hey, it's, whatever, 11 a.m. But we can't build our lives around that. Human lives, dynamic lives, can't be built around static, man-made things. And so that's where the tool becomes abused, when there's too much emphasis on it, where people can't function without a time, where people can't function without a dollar. If too much of our minds are taken up thinking about time and money, those are inanimate objects. Inanimate objects. So that's something that's not good for human development. So think about how can we disengage from those? How can we disengage from those things? How can we disengage from money, clocks, government, while still integrating into them? All right. So now with drug addictions, it's like, okay, no drugs, just phase them out. Okay, gone, not a problem. But in contemporary society, we are still going to have to use money, clocks, in government. We're going to have to be around those things. So to bump up our resistance to those things, we need to dig back to when we went through our addiction process, and let's reawaken these things, these ways that we've nurtured ourselves, that we've grown ourselves, and nurture these conversations with ourselves that, okay, I really don't want this controlling my life. I don't want this, even I don't want this in my life, but we are going to have it in our life. So this is the next level of addiction. So now, before we had the drugs and we were able to put drugs and alcohol away and not be around them, no problem. Now, money, clocks, government, we're going to have to be around them. We're going to have to use them. So, and we can see how that natural cycle, how the universe would force our being into growing that way, so that we can actually integrate with that. So that was my point about lessons from addiction, and how money, clocks, government are static things. I'm not going to get too much into government. Everyone here should pretty much know that we can't have outside entities managing us, much less from governments that they're in place because they're conquering entities. They conquered and killed to get in power. Well, power that's not real power. They're chasing power because they don't have any power. And also, a nurturing, conquering mindset is not a nurturing mindset. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. So, government, the people are wanting a government that comes from conquering and killing, and now is going to help the people. Let's just cut to the chase. That's not going to work. So, so that's some of those things. Let's see here. Sam, no, linear mindset, just replace colonial mindset, and no, you're not there. This is insight to how messed up people are in English words. But yeah, if you have traditional values, linear mindsets, basically, this is the sickness. This is colonial sickness. Is what it is. So let's see here. Yeah. What did you think you found in drugs that was missing from your life? No, I mean, okay, so talk about, drugs is, I mean, they're tools too, and there's a lot of things going on with, of course, marijuana is an easy one, and if I can quote Ozzy Osbourne, you introduced me to my mind. All right. So simple. I mean, let's just be real. Psilocybin now is, actually legal in Denver. There's doing a lot of research. So there's tools, but then when those tools, become overused and abused, and there's no foundation for their use, there's no education around their use, that's a problem. Rain's starting to get a little bit heavy there. Yeah. Sam, right on. Inipi, Stella. That hot stuff will kill that coronavirus too. 133 degrees. I was in one the other night, and I know we got up there. Bill, Hakoa, Tokopo. Katrina, hi, everybody. So thanks for watching. Disengage from linear mindsets, lessons from addiction, and yeah, look for more things that we're addicted to. Don't let that go. There's always something. But I think that's a key. It's a huge key in actually our species development. So have a great day. I'm going to do one on coronavirus here too. Separate video though. All right. Have a great day. Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human, and disengage from linear mindset. Do it.